Well, it's that time of the year again. Once again, we're here at the North Sales Loft in Sydney. We're with the CEO, Michael Coxon. And Cocko, it looks like it's going to be a big year this year for the Hobart race.
Yeah, it certainly is. It was interesting because the year I thought started off a little bit slow, and by halfway through the year I thought, we're in a little bit of perhaps a little bit of a downturn, but certainly in the last few months the yachting world has really lifted its game down the southern hemisphere, and been some big moves in boats being sold and boats being set up and ready to go to Hobart.
Well, let's go from the top now. The big ones there. There's what, 5 100-footers?
Well, there's of course there's always Wild Oats. So she's gearing up for I think it's about her 10th or 11th Hobart. And then we've got Blackjack, which is the old Alfa Romeo that I used to sail with Neville Crichton on for many years. And she went to Europe and was called Esmeralda. And she's come out, and Mark Bradford from North Sales Brisbane is in charge of her, and Peter Harburg is a wonderful owner. He's had a great series of Blackjacks, and they're really geared up well, and they had a good battle with Oates in Hamilton Island. And then Loyal, the actual boat that won last year and broke the record, got beautiful conditions for that boat last year. She's just changed hands. And a gentleman named Christian Beck has bought her, and I'll be going to Hobart with Albie Pratt on that boat, and it's now going to be called InfoTrack, and in fact it's having its official launching tonight down at Birkenhead. And who have we forgotten there? So we've got those
we've only
three.
Forgotten Comanche.
Oh, sorry, of course, Comanche. How could I forget that? I had to put that out of my mind. Neville Crichton has chartered Comanche from Jim Clark, and he's taken on it as a package where he's taken on the existing crew, so it's going to be a very formidable crew, and Neville's going to step on board as the skipper, so she'll be really the boat to watch. That's going to be interesting, yeah.
Now, getting back to your skipper, Christian, give us a background to his background.
Oh, I only met Christian in September. He's basically from small boat sailing. When I say that, he's got a 38-footer, sails on Sydney Harbour, up Parramatta River, more into twilight racing, and he has decided he would like to get into a bigger boat, and so he when he was looking at the boat, he approached me because I've been involved with Loyal for many years, and it was previously known as Speedboat, and he asked if I would come and join him, and I had a commitment for this Hobart to Maserati, the Volvo 70 with Jim Cooney, but Jim's had an operation on his knee and I don't think up to doing the Hobart race this year. So I've taken with Jim's permission, some of the crew of the Maserati, and we're putting them on Loyal, and we're doing the race with Christian and 8 of his friends. So I believe they're not actually experienced with going offshore sailing yet, but so we've got a lot to do. We've only got 3 weeks really to go to the start of the race, and we haven't actually commissioned the boat yet. We're going to go hopefully for our first sail tomorrow. We're putting a new mainsail on tomorrow, and so we'll be doing some pretty intensive training over the next couple of weeks to see if we can pull the crew together and get it safe and seaman-like.
Mate, good luck.
It's not a small boat to put through its paces, but the main thing is we've got some very solid people, very capable offshore sailors, so we'll be in good shape.
Well, good luck for that one. Now, it's interesting what's happening with the Oatley family.
It's very pleased that recently they decided to put Wild Oats 10, which is the Rykel Pugh 66, has just entered the race. That's going to be skippered by Troy Tyndall, who's Sandy Oatley's son-in-law, and he's put a formidable crew of the up-and-coming sailors. And when I say up-and-coming, let's say under 40s, and he's got a really young crew on board of top sailors, and I think includes guys like Tom Slingsby, I think maybe on board, I've heard that, and Sevi Jarvan. There's a whole bunch of really top-line sailors.
Oh, good. And what about Wild Oats 11?
Wild Oats 11 is putting the old crew together. They're, I was speaking to Ian Murray a couple of days ago about it. They're trying to get Juan Villas, who's normally their navigator. He's doing the Volvo race, so they're hoping that he may be able to finish the next leg and slip up in time for the Hobart race. But I think that's wishful thinking. But we'll wait and see how that goes. But no, they're putting a very serious effort in again this year. They've used the Southport race as their feeder, and then Hamilton Island Race Week, and they're going to be right into it. And I think the Oatley family are very great supporters of yachting. To have the two yachts out there on the starting line, I think it's going to be a great sight. And
Blackjack, what's your odds on that?
Interesting. From what I've observed, the maxis are really quite interesting because they're all optimised in different wind ranges at the moment and conditions. So I think that if you're at a tough race on the nose, you'll find that that'll play into the hands of, say, InfoTrack, the old Loyal. I think that if you've got fresh reaching and running, you'll find that that's where Comanche will come into her own. I think Oates is now optimised to being more of an all-rounder. She used to be very good in the light, and she's traded some of the light to improve her more power sailing. And then you've got Blackjack, who's very formidable in light airs. I'd say under 10, 12 knots. She's a boat that is really to be watched, and has always been a very good light air boat. It's in its original configuration. When it was launched with a tungsten bulb, and which is a big advantage because it weighs a lot more than lead for the given volume, and it's grandfathered. And if they change the configuration, they'll lose the grandfathering, so it stayed in the same configuration. So while the other boats have gone more powerful optimisation, she is still set up, because originally Neville Crichton was very keen on sailing in the Mediterranean, and the Med's generally light airs, and the boat was optimised for that. So, and then the Hobart's a really interesting race, because even a fresh race, you remember the 8, 10, 12 hours of the fresh conditions, but you'll always go through transitions, and you get the light transitions. And in those big boats, you've got to bear in mind that the speed differences in fresh airs is minimal. So, but the speed differences in light airs can be huge. So you get a 2, 3, 4 hours of a park up in light airs, and you could actually see big changes in the positionings of the boats.
Well, that's what happened with Comanche and Wild Oats in their first race.
Yeah, for sure. And same with back in I think it was 2011 when we had Investec Loyal, and we were up against the Oats and ended up beating her, and it was because there were 3 definite park ups, and we had the advantage in that boat over her in the lighter airs, and managed to hold her off. Yeah, so the Hobart is always a mixed bag. And even a fresh race can actually end up having a lot of light air sailing in it.
And what about the mid-range, the 72-footer area? What's happening there?
Well, there's thinking of the boat that won it last year, the Kiwi Volvo 70 Giacomo. I'm not sure what she's been renamed this year, but I believe, has got a very good crew. I know Noel Drennan, who has done his last few Hobarts with me. He's going to be on board her, and I think it's got an American owner, and I'm sure she'll be very, very well placed again in that mid-range. Then we've got down to the 52s, TP52s, really interesting.
Huge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, that mid-sized boat, I noticed that Chinese Whispers was entered, and she's now pulled out of the race, so because she would have been a very good boat for that mid-range size. I think Rupert Henry's focusing on his sun sailing. Rupert told me he's now the Australian president of the 420 Association, so he's going to focus on that rather than his yacht sailing. Then we get down to the 52s, and it's always really interesting with the 52s because we have such a range of 52s in Australia, and we'll line up for the Hobart race. Matt Allen's just launched his brand new boat. So,
what design is that?
That is, I think it's a khaki from memory.
Khaki,
yeah, or a botine. I'd have to check. I think it's khaki or botine. Yeah, and so he's lined up for that. And I think now they'll settle that boat down, and he's got a very good crew, offshore crew on that boat. So that will be, I think, the one to watch in the 52s. And then last weekend.
What about Quest, which is the story of the 52s?
Yeah,
really?
Quest. Yeah, well, it's I believe under charter. When it's called Quest, I believe it's then under charter by Bob Steele. Then it's actually owned by Paul Clitheroe, and it's called Balance when it's sailing under Paul Clitheroe, and I think they're sharing the use of the boat this year. So, but I believe it's entered as Quest with Bob Steele.
Well, he's won it twice in that boat, hasn't he? So he's got to have some sort of...
No, it's going to be a boat to be reckoned with, and it's a very good offshore boat, that one. Yes. Yeah, really good offshore boat. So that'll be interesting to watch.
He's got a good crew, Greeny and the boys. So.
Yeah, very experienced offshore crew. And then we had the Bird Island race, which is a 90-mile was sailed this weekend out of Sydney, which is a race up north and back again, 45 miles up around an island and back again. And it was quite interesting. Blackjack was the only maxi in it, and she got line honours quite comfortably. They were very happy with their performance, how the preparations are going for the Hobart. And then it was quite interesting because the handicap results went to older boats that have been re-optimised, and where some of the more fancy 52s, I think the race didn't suit them. There was a bit of a park up, it started in a fresh nor'easter, and then a bit of a storm cloud came out of the west, and wind went round the clock, and they had a bit of a park up. So the Khaleesi was the boat that won that race, and then I think went from Khaleesi to St Jude with Ron Jacobs on board, and then I think it may have been Concubine was third overall. So basically the mid-sized boats cleaned up in that race, and some of the older boats, so they're all lined up to do the Hobart also.
So what about the tail end of the fleet? What's happening down there? Is there a great note there?
Yeah, I'd have to go and study
105 boats, I think.
Yeah, I'd have to go and study the form. The Hobart's a great race where you'll get people coming out. You'll get families coming out and mates to sail as it's their Mount Everest, so they take the Hobart on as that. So you get a lot of the professional sailors, the professional teams, and then it will filter right down to the amateur mates just going to sea and taking it on. So you get a lot of boats coming out of the woodwork, and it's a big entry list this year. The other thing that's going to be great after the Hobart race is that the Australian IRC Nationals are going to be held on Port Phillip Bay from Sandringham Yacht Club, which I'm proud to say that North Sails are sponsoring the event. And so a lot of us are going from Hobart. The boats are going to be delivered from Hobart back to Port Phillip Bay, which is about halfway back to Sydney. And in mid-January, the IRC Nationals will be kicking off. So we're getting a bit of a combination. I think it's really smart how Australian Sailing has actually planned that the delivery back from Hobart can actually start to add the numbers to the Sandringham IRC Nationals. So that's going to be a really fun regatta, and will be well supported by a lot of good boats.
Will any of the boats stay on for the Festival of Sails? That's their 175th this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. We've been focusing on the IRC Nationals,
sure.
So I'm not sure.
So what's happening with the 18s? I know that you're heavily involved in the 18s.
Yeah, the 18-footers. It's actually a really interesting year for the 18s because there have been a lot of retirements of what I call the old guard. And what that's done is it's opened up to a lot of new names, a lot of new faces, and a lot of different results coming out. So I guess you'd say on paper the SMEG team, I would say that they're probably the favourites of this season, as they've been the same crew for a number of years, and they've won the JJs previously. And so they would certainly be the form boat. But once you go past Meg, there's a whole lot of new names, a whole lot of new crews and youth involved, and I think it's fantastic, and you're getting different people getting up every week as they're learning to sail the boats and optimise them. They're really getting their act together, and so it's making it very, very interesting of where the 18s are going to go, and it's just great to see new blood in the class.
Yeah. And also the Etchells, talking about new blood, the boys did well overseas, I believe, and
yeah. GT Graham Taylor and his crew, they came second in the world in San Francisco. Really great effort. That's the second they've had in the Etchells fleet, so they're knocking on the door, and they're working up for the Worlds in Brisbane. So they're going to go over to Perth for the Australian Championships. So they're really doing well. John Bertrand's getting back in the class. He's had a year or so off while he's been focusing on. He's been running the Australian swimming team, and John's getting back into it again. And with the Brisbane Worlds coming up in next year, it's really the class One Design class that people are focusing on in Australia at the moment. And
what about you? Are you in it, or?
I'm. Yes and no at the moment. Etchells have given me a very bad back as I've got older.
It's all right hiking, mate.
Yeah. So I would like to sail in it. I'm just going to play it by ear on see how my back's. But certainly I'm going to be very involved with the sales and helping crews and so on. And I'm going to play it by ear. I'm not doing selection in my own boat because of yacht commitments and my back's giving me a bit of grief. But my plan is to sail with one of my friends and get involved later on in the campaign.
What about the big fellow? Is he?
Yep. Yeah. Well, Ian and I normally sail together, and I've sort of stepped down because of my back, and so he's sailing with Richie Allenson, and so they've got a good program going, and but I said to him, rather than doing the San Francisco Worlds with he and Richie a couple of months ago, I said, look, find a younger person who's not going to let you down.
With a good back.
Yeah, with a good back, because it's
and strong ankles.
The sad side of getting older.
Indeed, yes. Yeah. So what else is happening around the harbour and around what's the gossip? We need some gossip to end with here. Cocko, we've been
gossip. Well, at the moment, I've just come out of a meeting with Paul Hobson, who runs the One Design side of North Sales internationally, with a gentleman named Tim Healy, and Paul's here. He's been out for Sail Melbourne, checking out all the Olympic classes and so on, where Ian Murray now runs that for Australia. For Australian sailing. So anyway, Paul's here in the loft, and we're discussing all the One Designs and what's going on there. So that's really interesting to get brought up to date with the latest in One Design worldwide. So that's a bit of an eye opener how big One Design's getting, and I think that yachting is continuing to grow towards bigger One Design fleets, and I think that's where I think for a number of reasons. One's cost, and two, the commitment with crews is a lot easier with smaller One Design classes. So I think we're seeing good growth in One Design, which is the other option to yacht sailing, where I think there are a lot of owners who can afford to sail either one, but the ease of One Design is attracting a lot of guys, which is good.
Any new cloths?
Any new cloths? Well, we continue with our 3DI. I mean, this year we introduced 3DI Nordac, which was really an interesting new product line for us. So we've actually taken the 3DI technology and applied it to cruising products. So we can now, Nordac is basically a polyester filaments, and so we can make basically a Dacron or a polyester sail on a mould to using the 3DI technology, and it's basically it's exceeded our company's expectations worldwide in the demand. It's just such a great product. So you can basically have a stable sail that's made out of polyester Dacron and get great longevity and a great shape now. So that's a big breakthrough for us.
You're doing that in Nevada?
No, the Nordac is done in our Sri Lankan operation. Sri Lanka, yeah. So we've got we've got a lot more moulds now in Sri Lanka than we have in Nevada. Nevada, we do all the big boat sails, so you basically say over around 55, 60 foot and above are all the bigger moulds are in Nevada, and everything from around 55 foot and below down to 18 foot skiff sails, for instance, are done in Sri Lanka on our smaller moulds, and the Nordac product falls into that range.
So you've got an overall product range now, haven't you?
Yep, we in fact a year ago, well, in fact, the decision was made a year ago to fade out 3DL. We basically let the market make that decision. It was a transition from 3DL over to 3DI, and we turned off 3DL last September. So now we're 100% 3DI products. So we have a complete range of products in 3DI, from cruising through to racing. So that's been an exciting time for us. So have there been developments in cloth? Well, amazing developments. So Mylar is no longer used in the manufacture of North Sails, so which is a big step forward, because when you laminate Mylar to a fibre, lamination means you can get delamination. With the 3DI process, you cannot, you cannot get delamination. It's a pre-impregnated one-piece product. Fantastic. So that's been a big step forward. So yeah, we've had a big step forward on materials over the last 12 months. And yes, and the 18 footers, we talk about those again. We swapped those over last year from 3DL to 3DI, and my nephew went out and won the JJ World Championships with the first set of 3DI sails, and now they're standard. The whole fleet, if you look at it now, is jet black 3DI sails.
What, for Australia and New Zealand? Or?
Yep. So it's across the board. So we don't offer 3DL anymore. So everything is 3DI, yeah. And it's called a product we call 3DI Race, and it's specifically designed for smaller boats, engineered and designed for smaller boats under 30 feet. So it's been a really good introduction. So it gives us the full range, because 3DI was always developed on the bigger Grand Prix boats for obvious reasons. You can do your development there, and you're dealing with high loads. And once we perfected it in those markets, which is some 8 years ago now, we've been working on it, we've now introduced it to give the full range right down to dinghies.
Mate, good luck for the Hobart race.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I hope you and your tech man are doing extremely well.
Yeah. Well, as I say, we're looking forward to the launching of the boat this evening, and making new friendships and introducing some more people to yachting. It's going to be a bit of fun.
Mate, fantastic. That's what we need in the sport.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
All the best.
Thank you.